Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on a refreshed version of the Interlace Beaded Bangle. I made this bangle about 9 years ago, so here are 3 that I made back then. And my Bronzepony wrap-up for this month is going to be an interlace wrap-up. So I'll pull a bunch of interlace pieces and I'll show them to you in the wrap-up. And you know, as I was looking at some of the tutorials, I thought the beaded bangle needed a refresh because I think the beads I used were too dark and it was really kind of hard to see. So I appreciate all of you who were able to get through that with those dark beads. I really do. So I thought I would do a refresh for those of you who haven't done this yet, and those of you who would like to, you know, come along and make some more of them. All right, so here you go. I'm going to clear this off. We'll get our materials list going and we'll get started. Okay, let's get our materials list going, and you just need a few beads here. So you need 11 seed beads, and you need 3mm pearls, rounds, bicones. I think we even did we did rondelles, I believe. As long as you get a 3mm in there, I think that's the best fit. I tried an 8/0, but I didn't like the fit, how the 8/0 fit in between the beads, so I wouldn't use the 8/0. I've got a 6-pound Fireline in smoke, and I have several beading needles here. I think I used a size 11 beading needle for the whole thing, and here's a little stop bead. All right, let's get started. So thread your needle with about 4 to 6 feet of thread. If you're brand new to this, put on just a few feet and practice. So I put on a stop bead, and I've left a tail to sew in, so it's about 8 inches. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead 4 of my 11 seed beads. Just like that. I'm going to sew through the first one after my stop bead. Move my thumb in a second. That's going to give me a little right angle weave unit. And I'm just going to kind of scoot that down to close to my stop bead. So just like that. Pick up my 3mm round bead, pearl, bicone, rondelle, and 4 11-0s, and I'm going to drop those down to that unit, and I'm going to sew through the first bead after my pearl. So I'll just be calling it a pearl from now on. Just like so. I'm going to pick up a pearl, 3mm, and 4 11-0s. I'm going to drop those down to that unit. I'm going to sew through the first bead after that pearl. Make another right angle weave unit. So this is what we have so far. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We've got 2 pearls and 3 right angle weave units in between. So I'm exiting right here. I'm going to sew through the side bead of that right angle weave unit and the bottom bead. Just moving my thread over, just like so. Exiting here, I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s, and I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. Just like so. It's going to make another right ankle weave unit under that one, just like that. I'm going to pick up a pearl, my 3mm. I'm going to sew through the bottom bead of the next right angle weave unit. So right here, place that pearl just like that. We're exiting this 11-0 here. I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s. I'm going to sew through the other side of that bead I'm exiting, so right there. I'm going to make another right angle weave unit. And you want to try and keep these as close together as possible. I mean, we'll do some reinforcing as well. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to pick up my 3mm. I'm going to sew through the bottom bead of that next right angle weave unit. And I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s, and it looks all jumbly at first. So picking up 3 11-0s, I'm going to sew through, I'm exiting here, I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. put on another right angle weave unit. I'm going to sew through the side bead of that unit and the bottom bead, just like so. I'll just show you what we have so far. So this is what we have so far. I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s, exiting here. I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting, adding another right angle weave unit on, just like so. I'm going to pick up my 3mm and I'm going to sew through that bottom bead of the next right angle weave unit. Like that. I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s. I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. I'm going to pick up my purl, 3mm. I'm going to sew through the bottom bead of the next right angle weave unit. Don't get tangled. There we go. A little pull. Pick up 3 11-0s. I'm going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. Like so. I'm going to sew through the side bead and the bottom bead of that unit, that right angle weave unit, just like that. We'll do it one more time. 3 11-0s. Go a little faster. Sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. Pick up a 3mm, sew through the bottom bead of the next right angle weave unit. 3 11-0s through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. 3mm through the bottom bead of the next right angle weave unit. 3 11-0s through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. I'm going to sew through the side bead and the bottom bead of that right angle weave unit. You got it. You're just going to continue doing that until you have a good length for a bangle. Okay, so you're going to continue in this manner until you have your length going, and then your last row, so let's say you have your whole length going, this is your last row. You'll be exiting here. You just want to add the purls, so, or 3mm. So I'm not going to add any more right angle weave units. I'm just going to end it like this. So let's say this is, 8 inches long. So each end is going to look like that. So I'm just going to take these 2 purls off, and I'm going to continue with my right angle weave units and my purls in between until I have my length. So do that, come back and meet me here, and we'll make it into a bangle. Thread, so I've run out, so I'm exiting this bead right here. I'm just going to thread a needle, have a long thread you need to finish, put on a stop bead, leave it tail to sew in. So I've just come back through this 11-0, the purl, the next 11-0, the purl, and the next 11-0. So right along that line there, I'm just going to pull that down. Whoops, did you hear my beads? Some of my beads just went flying. And then, so I'm exiting here, I'm just going to sew through this bead right here and out the same bead that my short thread is coming out of. So now I have a new thread on. I can just sew this thread in, that previous thread in, and then I can just keep on beading, and you can also sew the little tail thread in. So right here, ready to put another unit on. Okay, so I'm about to finish the end. So here, I haven't put those 2 purls on yet. Before I do that, I want to measure this, because this is where you can do a little adjustment. So I'm going to bring it around like so, the widest part here, and that's pretty good right there. I'm about 1/4 of an inch or so overlapping, and I think that's going to be fine once we turn it into a bangle. So what you want to do now is you just want to end this side So you're going to pick up your pearl, you're going to sew through that top bead of the right angle weave unit, you're going to pick up your last pearl, and you're going to sew through this one, like so. And now both your ends are done. Okay, let's work this side of the bangle. So here I've kind of, I've curved it in a little bit. So we're going to turn it over this way, and we're exiting this bead right here. So this seed bead after the pearl. I'm just going to fold this up a little bit like that. I'm going to see if I can pull it super tight. And then I'm going to pick up my 3mm pearl. So exiting right here, I'm just going to sew through this same bead on the other side. See that? And bring that down. And that's going to add a third pearl on. See that? That's how we're going to close up this bracelet. So you've come from this bead, added a pearl, and came down through this one right here. So this is what it looks like. This is where you'll be exiting right here. Next up, so this is a right angle weave unit, right? We're exiting here. I'm going to sew through this one. And then through this one. So we want to be exiting right here, part of that right angle weave unit, this side. So come through. So just like that. Next up, I'm going to pick up a pearl, exiting right here. I'm just going to turn my piece over so I can, see where I'm going. So I'm just going to sew through the same bead on the other side. So here, when you look at it this way, I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through this bead right here. And we'll do this several times so that it becomes easy. So now I have another pearl on. So when I look at where I've come out, so I put this pearl on, I'm exiting here, I'm just going to work around this right angle weave unit, this one. I'm going to come through this one. So sew through this bead. And then this one. So it's always that side bead on both right angle weave units. So now I'm exiting. I'm going to hold it up this way. I'm exiting right here. So I just hold my piece around a little bit. And you want to make sure that they're in line. So this, I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through this one. So I'm going to pick up a pearl. And I'm going to sew through this bead right here. And then I'm going to work around this right angle weave unit, exiting here. I'm going to sew through this one. Here, I'll do them at the same time. And this one. So the bottom one on the side bead. All the while, you want to make sure that your pieces are in line. So you see how all these beads are in line? Okay, so exiting here. I'm going to pick up my pearl. And I'm going to, we'll just move this a little bit. I'm going to sew through this bead on the other side to add that pearl on. And then through the bottom bead and the side bead if you can get them together, but you can just do them individually like this. Pull that into place. Now I have my next bead on. And you see it may want to move a little bit. Just make sure you're always holding it so that that opening hole of these beads are facing up and they're in line. So you're just going to do that all the way down. Should we do it one more time? So I'm exiting right here. So this bead, I'm going to pick up my pearl, exiting here. I'm going to sew through this one on the other side. I'm going to sew through this right angle weave unit by sewing through this bottom bead. Get my thread caught just like that. And then this one. I'm going to make sure everybody's straight. So I'm exiting right here. I'm going to pick up my pearl. I'm going to sew through this one on the other side. And then this one, so the bottom bead and the side bead of that right angle weave unit. And then I'll be ready to put on another pearl from here to here, go through the unit, do it again, go through the unit. So we're going to do all the way down to close up the bracelet. And coming down to the end, I'll put the last couple of pearls on with you. So exiting here, I'm just going to sew through this one on the other side, just like we've been doing. It's just kind of pulling together. So exiting right here, I'm going to sew through this bead, and then this one. I'm going to add the last pearl. I'm going to pick up our pearl, going from this one to that top bead here. So just like that, here to here. Give that a pull. This is what this side looks like. They look exactly the same. Okay, so just meet me at this point. You'll be exiting an 11-0, and then we'll make it into a bangle. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around these beads again at the end. I just want to, because we've just put these on and they're a little loose. So we're exiting here. I'm just going to hold it this way. I'm going to sew through. I'm just going to sew around to come out of that same bead. So just through the 11-0s and the pearls. And I'm just exiting that same 11-0, and that way, it's not going to move around too much when I sew it together. Let's sew this together. So you want to make sure you're sewing it together straight. So you want to position your piece. So here we're exiting out of the 11-0 of the right angle weave unit. So you want all these units on top. So you want to make sure you connect this end all the way around to this end. Like, you don't want to twist it around like that. You want to make sure that you're connecting the correct unit to the correct unit on this side without twisting it. So that looks good. I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I'm exiting this 11-0. I'm going to sew through this one on the other side. Let me pull in a little bit for this. Like so. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and I'm going to sew back through the bead I started with. And I'll show you the thread path after I go through. So right through here. So when I open it up, you've just added those two 11-0s on to make a right angle weave unit. So I'm going to pull now. And when I pull it together, this is what it looks like. Not twisted, things are looking good. Okay, so we've come around. So here, I'll pull it out again. So there's our two beads, our right angle weave unit. I'm going to tighten that. So exiting here, I'm going to sew through this 11-0. Coming around again. Sewing through this 11-0, like that. Now I'm going to take my piece, I'm going to hold it in my hand like this, making sure those pearls match. I'm exiting that 11-0 up there. I'm going to sew through the pearl. Like that. And the next 11-0. So that's just going to take me around to the next line of right angle weave units. See that? So we're exiting right here. Pick up an 11-0. Sitting here, I'm going to sew through this one on the other side. Just going to make another right angle weave unit. Picking up an 11-0, exiting here, I'm going to sew back through the bead that I was exiting. The original bead. That's going to make that into a right angle weave unit. So now I have these connected. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of just move my piece over a little bit, you know, just lay it this way a little bit. I'm gonna sew through the next purl, so exiting here, and the next 11-0, like so. And now I'm gonna make a right angle weave unit right there. Picking up an 11-0, exiting here, gonna sew through this one, picking up on 11-0, sewing back through the original one, and now I have another right angle weave unit on. Okay, so this is where I have my right angle weave unit on, so exiting this 11-0. So we're just going to reinforce at this point. So I'm exiting here, I'm just going to sew through the purl and the 11-0. Just want to get it tight inside here. So exiting here, I'm going to sew through this 11-0, and this 11-0. So just going around the right angle weave unit and the purl. Okay, and you can just do that again. You can go through this one, through this one, so around the right angle weave unit like this. And then through this one and the purl. You got it. And the next the next 11-0, and you can reinforce that one. So you just want to just sew around a little bit to make sure that everything is connected nicely. And here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish that and then come back and we'll try it on. Okay, moment of truth. We're going to try it on. So when I look at the ones I made, I think it was like 9 years ago, actually the size is very similar. So maybe I did okay. We'll see. Roll it on, like so. And it kind of twists around as you roll it on. You can kind of move the side you want showing to the top, like that. And it fits. I think it's a perfect fit. So here, this is how much play I have. Don't think I could have made it any smaller because it wouldn't fit over the bony part of my hand right here. So here you go. Here's your refreshed Interlace Beaded Bangle. I hope if you haven't seen these before and haven't made them, that you make them and post them on Facebook. And if you've already made them, maybe, go back and make some sort of summery colors, because we did them really in these sort of very sort of crystals and dressy, but looks very summery to me. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye-bye.